Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're taking on what feels like an absolute mountain for so many people, the UPSC exam. Look, I know it feels insurmountable, but we are going to approach this completely differently today. We're bringing cold, hard data to the table to decode the playbook. Seriously, think about it for a second. What if the secret to cracking the UPSC was literally hiding in plain sight this whole time? We usually treat this exam like this wildly unpredictable beast that you just have to somehow outstudy and out-endure. But, when you actually look closely at the historical data, we're talking from 2014 all the way up to the expected trends for 2025, a highly predictable blueprint emerges. It's really not just about grinding harder. It's about knowing exactly where to aim your focus.
Okay, let's dive into this. Let's look at the macro view of general studies. The numbers here paint a crystal clear picture of where your time actually needs to go. Polity and economy, they are consistently top-heavy, pulling in around 14 questions each. Environment, science and tech, and geography are right behind them. But, and this is huge, look at the drop-off when we hit history. Modern history gives you a solid 8 questions, sure, but ancient and medieval history, plus art and culture, they bring in really low yields, sometimes just 1 to 3 questions. So this right here is your baseline. It instantly tells you exactly where your study hours are going to generate the absolute highest return on investment.
So that's the baseline for general studies, but now let's pivot over to the aptitude test. Section 1, the Great CSAT Shift, Maths versus Reasoning. This is where things get wild. And this brilliantly illustrates the most dramatic paradigm shift of the last decade. Look at those blue bars for the maths questions. Back in 2014 and 2015, they were sitting low at just 15 questions. But recently, oh man, they have completely taken over. We're talking peaks of 40 questions in 2020, and they've been hovering in the high 30s ever since. Now contrast that with reasoning, the green bars, which shrank all the way down to a measly 14 questions in 2023. The balance of power has completely flipped.
Now, what really anchors our understanding of this whole trend is English comprehension. If you look right in the middle there, you'll see it stays incredibly stable. It averages around 27 questions year after year. The main takeaway here, comprehension is your steady baseline. For sure, but the definitive battlefield has moved straight to quantitative aptitude.
All right, moving on to Section 2, high-yield topic breakdown to maximize your ROI. Because knowing the macro trends is great, but we really need to zoom in on the micro topics so you know exactly where to invest your time.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is, well, you don't even need to be a data scientist to spot it. Look at that massive outlier right at the very top of the chart over the last 10 years.
87. That is the exact number of questions dedicated entirely to the number system since 2014. It is literally the absolute king of the math section. If you're out there dividing your time equally among all the math topics, you're making a massive strategic error. The data is practically screaming at you to master the number system first. So, let's break down the actual tactical playbook for maths based on this data. Your high priority bucket is super clear. Number system, percentages, and divisibility and remainder. These are the absolute engines of the CSAT math section. On the flip side, check out the low priority bucket. We're talking topics like algebra, elementary statistics, partnership. Some of these have appeared maybe once in an entire decade. They are massive time sinks. Review them if you have extra time at the very end, sure, but absolutely do not let them eat into your core priority study hours.
Okay, so what about logical reasoning? It's definitely shrunk, but it still matters. Historically, puzzles absolutely dominated the reasoning section, like 78 questions over the decade, but they've actually been declining lately. What has remained incredibly consistent, though, are statements and conclusions, or inference questions. They are a very safe, consistent bet for scoring. Direction and distance hold steady year over year, too. And just like in maths, you have topics you can almost entirely skip. Do not waste your precious energy on mirror images or analogy. They barely even register on the exam's radar anymore.
Which brings us to Section 3. Smart MCQ solving tactics for exam day execution. Because knowing the data is only half the battle, right? The rest comes down to the human element on the actual day. We recently saw this deep dive history masterclass that revealed some just incredible logical guessing strategies for when you're in the hot seat. Take this historical term, Gavishti. If you haven't memorized it, don't panic. Look for the root word. In ancient Indian history, the root go relates to cows. Gavishti literally translates to a war for cattle. Knowing just that single root word lets you make a highly accurate logical guess from a list of totally confusing options. Here's another brilliant example from that same masterclass to reinforce the strategy. Godhuli. Again, we see that root go for cow, and dhuli meaning dust.
It refers to the evening dust kicked up when the cows return from the pasture at dusk. If an option tries to trick you and tells you it's a specific morning ritual or, I don't know, a type of ancient weapon, you can immediately eliminate it. Understanding these language roots acts like a scalpel, just cutting away the incorrect options.
And then, there's the absolute power of locking down definitive hard facts. Take the number 108. That's the traditional count of the Upanishads. Why does this matter for your MCQ strategy? Because UPSC loves those multi-statement questions. If one statement says something like, there are exactly 50 main Upanishads, your rock-solid knowledge of the number 108 lets you instantly eliminate that statement. Honestly, sometimes one hard fact is all it takes to collapse an entire complex multiple-choice question and zero in on the right answer.
But listen to me carefully right now, because this is where even the smartest candidates fail. This right here is the ultimate trap, the phrase not correctly matched. It is so agonizing how many students do the hard work, they know the concepts inside and out, but they completely miss the word not at the end of the prompt. They see 3 correct statements, get super excited, and pick the wrong option entirely. It happens all the time.
The mentor in the masterclass put it perfectly. They warn students, filling the circle before reading carefully happens when we get overconfident. When a question looks easy, when you feel that rush of adrenaline because you actually know the topic, that is exactly when you are the most vulnerable. Overconfidence leads to careless execution. You literally have to force yourself to pause, read the prompt twice, and look for words like correct or not correct before you even glance at the options.
So here's the crucial takeaway from all of this. The UPSC is not some untamable beast. It's a system, and systems have patterns. You now have the macro data telling you exactly where to focus your effort and the micro tactics to keep your head cool when you're bubbling in that sheet. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Are you ready to let data and not dread drive your exam strategy? Go review those high-yield topics, practice your logical guessing, and go conquer that test. We'll catch you in the next explainer.